Hello, I am Peter Happy Nose, and we are here at El-Kareh, a world leader in semiconductor yield management solutions, to interview Mr. Bartolomeo Barco Dorderhofer, a supply chain engineer manager at El-Kareh, about their outsourcing efforts. Thank you, Mr. Dorderhofer, for giving some time in your busy schedule.
No problem. Call me Barco.
Okay, Barco. Can you tell us your biggest problem with outsourcing?
Peter, it is part quality from our contract manufacturers around the world. As we keep moving our supply chain around to find the best price, we have to work extra hard to make sure our level of quality is maintained.
Is KT ISO 9000?
Absolutely. We went through that struggle to get all our parts and processes documented some years ago.
What was the struggle about?
It was a two-front battle, actually. Most information is stored in people's head, not recorded. The first battle was to get it out of their heads and record it into some document. After that, we had a longer, but less painful battle to get all the drawings and procedures into a standardized and consistent format. But now it's all in matrix, RPLM, and everyone is doing the best they can to maintain it using our engineering change order processes as we move forward with new products.
Did that documentation effort completely implemented your ISO 9000 process?
Unfortunately not, Peter. The ECO processes are just part of our overall business process system. Now, the problem is getting the other business processes implemented, especially in relation to our often changing outsourcing suppliers.
What business process are we talking about here?
The supplier approval process, supplier financial risk assessment, the supplier qualification summary process, the non-disclosure agreement process, global supply market analysis, the request for proposal process, the contract negotiation process, supplier performance management planning, the supplier scorecard process, the supplier corrective action request process, the phase exit gap analysis, the red line process, the waiver deviation process, the Intel copy exact process, and the first article process.
Is there a common thread to this?
Yes. Each process is essentially maintaining part quality from our suppliers, and each process is quite straightforward and even simple when you implement it for just one part or one supplier. However, when you try to scale these procedures to thousands of parts and suppliers, it all falls apart. Things are too complicated for any human to keep track of. Even zebras cannot manage it.
Use the solution used to manage the ECO process?
We've had pretty good experience with Matrix and using low-cost region help for drafting, ECO writing, and ECO analyst work on the whole ECO process. But Matrix is only customized for one process, namely ECOs. If it were to customize it for other processes, it would be painful. Ken Kapoor explored this for a potential materials compliance process to get us ready for ROS, REACH, and other environmental safety initiatives. IT gave him an estimate of $1 to $2 million and at least a year of development. Multiply that by the 10+ processes we still have to get control of, and you can see why we're currently at a stalemate.
So, Barco, what do you think is the solution?
Well, Peter, we've been exploring the use of a hybrid combination of low-cost region engineering labor and existing environmental compliance software deployed as software as a service in order to keep track of things.
That is kind of different. How will that work?
Rather easy, Peter. Let me show you an example using the first article process. Here we have the inspection station welded frame. It is made by our outsourced partners in Asia. It needs to be done right because it's not replaceable, since everything is bolted to it. Replacing it means starting all over again from scratch. Right now, we fix any problems in the clean room as they are found along the assembly process. It's not a good idea to drill, grind, or weld in the clean room, but we have no choice today. A comprehensive first article process on this part would make life a lot easier for us. But a comprehensive first article is a bit of a challenge on this. On the drawing for this part, there are 490 holes in this weldment. Each hole has an X position dimension attribute, a Y position dimension attribute, a diameter dimension attribute, a
depth dimension attribute, a hole angle attribute, a thread type attribute, a thread depth attribute, a countersink angle attribute, a countersink depth attribute, an insert type attribute. That tallies up to 4,900 attributes needing to be inspected. Next, we look at the 52 pieces that make up the weldment. Each piece has several X outline dimensions, several Y outline dimensions, a raw material thickness, several depth dimensions for the welding tab, several X dimensions for the welding tab, several Y dimensions for the welding tabs, a dimension for each position of each bend, a call-off for each weld, and the whole assembly has a GD&T call-off to keep the frame square after welding.
Adding them all up, you'll have to inspect 12,432 attributes. My manufacturing engineers usually faint at this point of the discussion.
This doesn't sound easy at all. You still have not told me how you will get this to happen.
Fair enough, but that was just the description of the task at hand. Here is how we would make it happen. We assigned an engineer from Vignani, our low-cost region service partner, to go into CAD and take the time to enumerate each one of the attributes. It will take a long time, but that will be the engineer's sole task until it's done. And remember, the labor is low cost. We then assign a Vignani analyst to enter each of these attributes into a spreadsheet with a nominal value and upper and lower control limits. This essentially provides the basic program for their automated coordinate measuring machine to inspect the frame in a comprehensive manner. Once programmed well, the machine is reasonably fast, tireless, and quite accurate in the measurements. By using CAD, this effort is done once and stays with the drawing and can be reused every time we need to do another first article inspection, like when we change vendors. Again.
Okay, I get that. But how will you manage it?
I'm getting to that. First, the software prompts the engineer and analyst in sequence for the inspection plan for this part. And by the way, it can also prompt for the inspection plans for additional parts and to additional engineers and analysts. The software and the available labor both scale nicely. Once we have a meaningful inspection plan, the software prompts the buyer to initiate the first article process with the vendor through a purchase order. Once the buyer confirms with the software that the PO is done, it asks the buyer for approval to send the inspection plan to the vendor. Once the vendor is given the inspection plan, the software prompts the vendor for the inspection results in electronic format. Once given the results, the software compares the measurements with the upper and lower control limits to validate that the inspection was successful. The measurement results and the automated comparison analysis is then reported to the engineer for approval. The engineer is then prompted by the software to give approval or to give further inspection instructions to cover the deficiencies. If approved, the software prompts the buyer to notify the vendor to ship the material to KT. All of this prompting is done automatically and triggered by the completion of the previous task in the workflow.
So, how will you get this new software to solve your tracking problem?
So, Peter, when you perform a workflow for a specific ISO 9000 procedure, it's pretty straightforward, even if time-consuming to do it once. But when you start to do it many times for thousands of parts and suppliers, you can no longer track it manually. So we need the software, and the software needs dashboards, so that if things fall apart, I can know immediately. Oh, and one more thing, Peter. The software can be configured to initiate the same workflow or other workflows some months after completion of an existing workflow. Thus, when we want to go back and check that things are being made the same way with the same quality, the software will prompt us for each part and each supplier, even if we forgot. Nothing will fall through the cracks.
That's pretty impressive, Barco. How soon do you see this happening in your company?
Well, we are in software trials right now. If we make the decision to go forward, I've been told that this can happen in a matter of weeks. No extra servers, databases, or any other IT infrastructure is needed to be ordered. We pay by the seat, by the month. We can add as many people as we like, or as few as we like. We can download our data and stop the service anytime we like. This kind of software does not require any IT customization, just simple workflow configuration that can be done by even our least trained professionals. Plus, we have a secret weapon. Stanford.